Hello everybody in the Android application development class. In today's lecture, I'm going to go over the concept of content providers and show you how to make a custom content provider. So we're going to make a custom content provider. In order to do that, you need to hop on over to the examples folder and sort by the modified date if you want. April 22nd. It's going to be the last. It's going to be the newest file in the list so far if you're watching this. And it's called contentprovider.txt. So if you click on that, that's going to be our source code for what we're going to work with for today. So I've got my emulator up and running to hopefully make that more streamlined. And let's go ahead and start. So I'm going to start and create a new Android project. And this one's going to be an empty application. And if you don't have one already, hopefully you don't, leave my application as the name because it'll make your life easier, because we have to specify which app is allowed to use the provider, etc. and so forth, and just leave it alone, just because that's how I did the example. So if you're going to cut and paste the code from the example, leave my application as the name of the application for right now. You can always change it in the future if you want to recreate it, but we'll see how it works this way. So go ahead and click on finish, and if I do that, I'm going to build a project here. Should be building momentarily. Let's wait for the build to finish. So there's a couple of things we're going to need to do. We're going to need to change the user interface. We're going to change the main activity, and then we're going to add the custom content provider. So I'm going to put the code and run it, and then I'm going to go over the code and show you what it's doing. Okay, so let's add the Java class student provider. Student provider is our content provider. So let's go ahead and copy this code here. Whoa, there we go. Make sure we get it all. Edit, copy. This is also proof of concept to make sure my example is working. I'm going to put it in the com example, my application folder, file new, Java class, and it is called students. I think I made it plural, provider. Let's just check the name real quick. It is students provider. Yep, students with a capital P provider. Perfect. We could always change the name, but it's easier to put it in correctly. So now I'm going to take out this code and paste in my students provider code. All right. And good, no errors. That's good. All right, so this is our content provider. And so just to make this a little bit bigger, we'll go through this momentarily here. It's still no replacement for looking at a lecture or for doing some extended reading on content providers to get the concept down. But a content provider is something that resides in the main content on the Android phone. And you can write to the content and then read from the content from many different apps. It's shared content. And so you could put a database in the shared content. You could put other music files in the shared content. There's a lot of shared content. Go ahead and research that a bit more so you have a better understanding of what shared content is, or a content provider. A content provider is a class object, which this one is, that serves up to the app content that is available, and by a provider. We're going to make a provider in this example. So we have our usual includes. This is going to use an SQLite database. So here's the big thing here. The students provider is extending content provider. So we're making a content provider. This is not an activity. This is not a service or broadcast receiver. This is a content provider. This is what you're doing in the last assignment for the class, by the way. This is assignment 7. Okay, so we've got some strings here. We have the provider name, which is why I wanted you to call the app my application. And the provider is the student's provider. And the URL, which is going to be the content : / this is the path to it. The provider name plus students, which is going to be the name of the database that we're going to use. So we have an ID, a name, and a grade that we're going to put. This is for keeping track of students and grades. Okay, so we're going to use a hash map for it. We're going to start out with one student, and we're going to have a student ID, which is going to start out with 2, and we're going to increment the student IDs as we stick them in there, so the user won't have to put the student ID in. Once we get through this a little bit, we'll run it. If you're still confused about databases, this is another example of a database. This is a database content for our content provider. Excuse me one moment. Sorry about that. I was choking on my own words. So the database name is going to be called college. The table is going to be called students. This is the first version of the database. Just in case we do an upgrade, we can check for the version. We're going to create a table of students. So just in case you are still kind of fuzzy on how to use a database for persistent data, this is a database, but we're not using it in the app. We're going to put it in the content provider. All right, so we're not using a database adapter here either. We have a class for a database helper, which would be our database adapter, but it's a lightweight one, so it's the SQLite Open Helper. But anyway, we're going to create the table. It's going to be called the students table. There's going to be a primary key for the ID. So there'll be a field for ID, and it'll be auto increment, so the user won't have to enter that in. The user will only enter in a name and a grade. And here's that database helper I was talking about. On the create, we're going to run the SQL command to create the database. On an upgrade, if we upgrade the app, we'll check the version number changes, and we drop the table and we recreate it. Then on the create, we have our context that we're going to get. We're going to use our database helper. We're going to write a writable database, create a writable database, which will trigger its creation if it doesn't exist already. Create the database, add a student record in, so that we have something in the database. We're just going to insert the student table if the record is added successfully. And then we're going to check it. So we're going to get the content resolver to make sure that we have an actual record in there. And then we have the cursor query, which is the database, the data that comes out of the database when you run a query is held in the cursor. And so we have a little bit, if we run a query, we're going to be able to retrieve the results from it. So you can take a look at this code in a lot more detail on your own. This is a repeat of the database code that we've actually seen already. So we have an update, we have an insert, we have a delete. We have all these methods to work with the database. Now, this is the stuff that you were hopefully familiar with already from a previous assignment when you had to create a database. But the student providers is nothing more than a database that's stored as a content provider. So it's a content provider. This is the part that's new for today, which I'm trying to show you. And the content provider is a database, and the database is going to sit there, which means this app can go ahead and can get it added, and it can also be shared with other apps as well. So anyway, research a bit on content providers so you understand the concept. Okay. Let's do the main activity.xml file next. I'm going to remove what's in there. Let's put the interface in there. And of course it's down here. So we got a little linear interface. And our linear layout is going to have an edit text for the name, an edit text for the grade, a button to add the name, and a button to retrieve students. Actually, this is going to retrieve all students, so I'll just say retrieve students. There we go. So we have an on-click receive students for the on-click method here, and an on-click add name for the on-click method here. So add name, retrieve the students. And we're looking at the name of the grade. We don't need an ID field because the ID is going to be populated automatically. So there is our activity. So I'm going to save that one. Just make sure I get everything saved here. Save all. And let's replace the main code now in the main activity. Let's see what happens here. We also need to change the manifest. I have to remember to do that. So I sort of did this out of order. You could do it in any order that you want. Here's the main activity. Oops, very small. Okay, what's our main activity doing here? We'll see what happened there in a second. Don't need that import. I don't need that one. I'm just getting rid of duplicates there. All right. We just added name in there. Did we call it name? Grade. Grade in there. And we have ID name. Yes, we do. Okay. I'm just curious with that one there, but we'll see. All right. I think my project just needs to sync up a little bit. So main activity extends activity. On the onCreate, we're going to use activity underscore main, which we've got there. And then on the onClick add me, and then we have the two buttons here with the onClick retrieve students. On the onClick add me, it's going to add the student in. So the content values is equal to new content values. And we're going to take the student provider.name and we're going to put values in. So the put values is going to come into the content values. So content values is values. So values we're going to put into there the r.id.name, which is get, you know what? What did I do? No, I got it. Find view by ID is for our edit text. And get text to string, and then we have our edit text, our other edit text for the r dot grade. Why is this not working? I'll have to fix that in a moment. Just taking out the spaces there. Interesting. Okay, so we have the edit text for the name. We have the edit text for the grade. I'm not quite sure why it's red, but I will find out momentarily. So we're getting the two values from the interface, and then we've got our URI for our get content resolver, and we're going to insert into student provider.getURI the values. And we're going to put a little toast message up. And the little toast message up is just going to show us the values that we put in. Now, when we want to retrieve a value, then on the onClick retrieve, we're going to get a URL for the content provider, which is going to be in content://com.example.my application.studentProvider, which is our content provider. We're going to make a URI for the student, and because the students is the table that is inside of the content provider, students provider. And we're going to create a cursor. Cursor C is going to be get content resolver students. The rest of the fields we can just leave them blank. We just need students. We're going to create a string students is null, just a blank initialized string, just in case this is empty. And then we're going to use the cursor. So the cursor's got an iterator built right into it. So we can go c.move to first, which is our cursor. So this is kind of like a old-fashioned C/Java loop, a for loop. You know, for C is equal to move to the first, While it's not the last, then move to the next. And then when we're going to take my students is going to be equal to my students plus get the string from the column index ID, get the string from the column index name, and then get the string from the column index grade. And then send up a toast message for this, my students toast.length. So let's see why we have these guys in red. Let's just take a look here. Let's just see if we run it. It should build just fine. I think it just needs to I'd probably need to clean the project. It says Gradle build running. Let's see what happens here. Those should not be in red. It's bothering me that it's in red. Okay. Oops, installing it. Installed successfully. Not quite sure why it's still showing in red. It's probably because my screen has not, oh, it's running, which is good. Okay, so we have the add name button with the retrieve students button. We have the name and the grade. So up here, I'm going to put my name in here. Oh, it definitely is the speed of my computer. It is running slow, probably memory related with the recording going on. So let's see what happens when we press the S. So I'm going to give myself an A. Here, I'll give myself an A+. There we go. There we go. All right, so I'm going to add the name. So when I add the name, I get a... Well, bombed out. Okay, let's take a look here and see what's going on. I'm going to pause the video momentarily. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what's going on. I did not give my app permissions. So I'm going to go into the Android manifest now. And I'm going to add the permission for my app to use the content provider. So on the bottom of this text file here, we replaced the student's provider. We replaced the main activity. We replaced the XML interface, but we did not add the manifest. I knew I was going to forget that too. We did not add this one here. So let's give the app permissions. We just saw what happens when it doesn't have permissions. So let's see if we get any better luck. So in between the opening and the closing application, we add the line to make the student's provider available. So we have, and let's just put this on multiple lines so you can sort of see this all at once. Provider, student's provider, and the authorities is going to be given to this file. So now that we have the Android manifest updated, let me just save all again. Try and run her one more time. I still have those squiggly lines and I still have that red stuff, which is really bizarre because it does work. So let's go back. I'm determined to give myself an A+. So let's see. I add the name. And now we have a little toast that comes up that says, in fact, if we make that a little bit longer, we might be able to, here, I'm going to stop that for a second. Let's make that toast message a bit longer. So when we add a student, we're putting up a toast message. Oh, it is long. Okay, it is the longest we got. Length is long. Let me run her one more. That is bizarre that it is red. I'm gonna run her one more time. I think it's a yeah. So it's actually in there already. From the last time, if I retrieved the students, we've got Newell 1, Barbara A+. I don't know how that Newell got in. Oh, that's because I started out with Newell. I made string to Newell. I probably should have put a capital Newell in there. Here. Oh, it's too late. It's already in there. I probably should have said just 0 or something. Let's put John in here. I'm going to give John an F. And so when I add it in, I get a message here that I added it in. This is student number 2. Let's put here Mary. And we'll give her a B+. If I add her in there, then I get student number 3. If I click on retrieve students, I got Newell, Barbara, John, and Mary that show up. Now, If I wanted to retrieve it, I probably should put it like in a list box or something. I'm just showing you a really quick and easy way of just putting it into a toast message. But there you have it. It is working. Why in the world? I'm going to stop it for a second. Why in the world it is showing red? I clean the project here. Really bizarre. It is working just fine. Why these guys are in red, I have no idea. Maybe that will tell me. It's not telling me either. Analysis completed. Found 2 errors. Yeah, but what were the 2 errors? Those are not 2 errors. Anyway, not going to worry about it. Stuff like that just bugs me. I just upgraded again the IDE, and this wasn't happening before the upgrade. So anyway, that should not be in red. I think it's just if I close the project and bring it back up. Actually, let's do it. Let's close the project. Bring it back up. It should go away. And it does. Look at that. Maybe that is, now it's gone. Maybe that's the key. You just have to close the project and bring it back up. I don't know, it seems kind of bizarre to me. So you'll see when you run it again, the emulator is still going to have that data on there from the last time I ran it. Even though I keep reinstalling it. Let's go here. We'll put Larry in here. Larry, he's going to have a D-. Larry's not doing well. All right, so then get rid of that. 4 students in there, retrieve it. Now I got Barbara, John, Larry, and Mary. Larry and Mary. Which is interesting. There's no particular order that shows up, and it looks like Larry came before Mary. So if I want to clear this out completely, I have to clean the data off of my emulator in order to do that. Let me show you how to do that real quick. So I just press this button here. I could stop it right there if I wanted to. I've got to click on the emulator, stop the emulator, quit the emulator. It doesn't really matter if I save the state or not. I'm just going to go back into my tools in the AVD manager. See, this is the one I was using. I'm going to wipe the data on it. Wipe data. Actually, let me wipe them both while I'm here because I don't know which one I was using. There we go. And I'm going to start this guy back up. And then I have to pause the video because this is going to take a few minutes. So, actually, while that guy's loading, he's loading, let's fix this problem here. Let's just leave it alone. We'll just go students. And there's going to look squiggly line. Variable students might not have been initialized. Yeah, I know that. All right, well, that's what I did. Here, we'll make it a blank screen. Actually, here, let's do it this way so we can see it start. And we'll put a start colon. It's just a string we're putting up on the screen to show the toast message. It looks like we're booting up a little bit. We're booting faster than I expected. I will pause it so you don't have to wait for the rest of this. So my emulator finally loaded up. I want to run it one more time. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen if I don't put any students in there. It should just say, I'm just trying to make sure the code is workable, and it is. Let's see. So it should just say start now when I press on that to retrieve. Yeah, because that's all I got. All right, so now if I put Bob in here, give him a C. Looks like my system is running a little slow. Add him in. I have number 1 in there. And now I have start 1, comma Bob C is what it shows. Okay, very good. Okay, so you can sort of see how it is working. I'll put Barbara in there. I'll give myself a C+ now. And the query results come back, and now I have 2. Okay, good. So there you have it. This is how you work with a content provider. This is a custom content provider. Make sure that you do add the permissions to the manifest. If you don't do that, you're going to experience what I experienced in the video, whereby it just flashes and goes down. So you do need an Android manifest modification. You can use this custom provider with almost anything you want. This is just a database, a simple little database that's being created. The functionality, we're just adding items to the database, pulling stuff out of the database. And it's one of these reusable components that you can add to the provider on the phone, write another app, and get to the same provider. But for the purposes of showing you how the content provider works, that is a activity that extends content provider. This is a provider component called student provider. Hope you enjoyed the video, and the code is available. The code is available on the website under the contentprovider.txt. There's one in here called database example. This one here actually shows you a little bit more about using, actually it's still using the Open Helper. It's using the same, similar, but there's more fields in here. But if you're curious more about the databases, this particular database example is another good one that I did in the class back when we were having the face-to-face meetings. I think it was probably one of the last ones I did with you guys. This one is a good one if you're having problems understanding the content provider database. So I will leave you with that. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something new about content providers. See you next time for another video. Thanks for watching.